This YCN segment is brought to you by Lake Sunapee Visiting Nurse Association and Hospice.
Welcome back, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, Rob Taylor. And before we move to the Patriots, I cut Rob off. He had a great stat about the Red Sox. So what is that?
We're talking Sandy Leon, our catcher, who has really become kind of a Veritek-like kind of guy for us. I just found this stat. In the last 29 games that Sandy Leon has started, we're 27-2. So put that in your pipe and smoke on it.
Yeah, not
right?
bad. He handles the pitching staff well. Obviously gets the big hits, as we saw last night. And that can go a long way. It's always those little things that happen when a team's going to win a World Series or go deep in the postseason. There's always some little things.
Drawing out the best of your staff.
And everybody.
Is what he's
yeah,
gonna
exactly.
Do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll look for him to hopefully start every game the rest of the way, but give him some rest, as you said. Getting into the Patriots, they had their first preseason game last week. Now they play the Eagles, their second preseason game, a quote-unquote rematch of the Super Bowl. Not many guys are going to play, but how much stock do you take in these preseason games? I know some people really love them for entertainment, but does it matter?
I don't think so. It's really sort of the most irrelevant preseason in any sports league. Obviously, the threat of injury and the way that the rosters are so expansive during the preseason.
Right.
So it's really sort of a time for some people farther down the list to try to get an opportunity to show off their talents a little bit. But it's basically advertising. It's fun to see the guys in pads and uniforms, and it's fun to see them on prime time at night. During the preseason, but I really don't put a lot of stock into it. I mean, the Patriots, my recollection is they've always been kind of stinky in the preseason, but they don't put their guys out there.
They don't put their guys out there. There's no need to. But a couple of the guys that you mentioned, or the fact that you mentioned some guys down the depth chart, we have Kenny Britt, Eric Decker, Braxton Berrios, and Riley McCarron. Those four guys are on the bubble, so to speak, as wide receiver. Obviously, we've got Edelman, Hogan, probably Philip Dorsett, and Gronk as tight end. But those four guys, do you have any separation, or is it still whoever performs the best right now?
Yeah, I was doing a little research on this. It's still kind of a wide receiver by committee at this point, which is not necessarily a bad thing, and it seems to almost be the Patriots' way. Only once can I recall when we had an absolute world-class elite receiver, Randy Moss, who just went in the Hall
of Fame, yes,
and was very appreciative of the Kraft family and Belichick and Brady, and that was fun to watch his induction. But nobody's really differentiated themselves enough for me yet. If any of them, I may be thinking Decker, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Kenny Britt has shown signs, but then he's been hurt. Last year he struggled. Decker, he clearly doesn't have as much as he used to have when he was with the Jets and obviously with the Broncos, but he's still, he has some knowledge, a veteran. And then Berrios and McCarron kind of rounding that out. Berrios, the draft pick in the 6th round. So it'll be interesting to see how they get that. And it's also who gets acclimated with Tom Brady the best, who can work with him. And I think he has some say with the coaches and saying, hey, maybe he's not the final say of which wide receiver, but if he says, hey, I'm really working with a guy, clicking with this guy, it'll show up in games or show up in preseason, and he might have a little bit of a say.
Yeah, my understanding of how Tom Brady works, having watched a few of his great documentaries and actually reading the Julian Edelman book, it really is that sort of trust and relationship that builds between Brady and his favorite receivers, and it's intangibles. It's kind of like knowing each other upside down, backwards.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see how that develops. Still super sad about the whole Edelman thing, and first 4 games without him, we're going to miss him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they can respond to start the season. But speaking of Brady, there was reports he missed game 1 in the preseason due to a sore back. I don't know how much of that is true, but that does bring up a question. He's getting older, he's not getting younger, and I know his talent level is there, but sometimes, despite what he'll tell you, the body is going to break down. Are you at all concerned this year that this is the year?
Yeah, I am. It's starting to seem like there's some chinks in the armor. As a guy who's in his 40s himself, I can kind of attest to the fact that that's where you really start to notice age coming on you a little bit stronger. You don't bounce back quite so fast. Your eyes aren't as sharp. All these different things start adding up. Your hair's getting gray, probably falling out. I'm starting to see it. I think we've mentioned this in previous shows.
We have.
We're starting to feel the Patriots kind of coming back down to earth a little bit. So, it's only a matter of time, and I've started to prepare my son, who's a huge Pats fan, who's known nothing but awesomeness.
Right, winning and
It's
going to
not
Super
always going to
Bowls.
be that way. So
Well, especially the fact that they don't really have a backup quarterback. I mean, I know Brian Hoyer's in there. He'll be able to he'll fill in if need be, but as we saw in preseason, he's not going to be the savior. So it'll be interesting. But Brady and Belichick, they say they're on, they're aligned, they're here to win.
Yep.
And so I think it'll be a good, successful year, but it doesn't mean it's not going to have its challenges.
Absolutely.
So we'll see what happens there. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll preview the NFC North division. Obviously, some shakeups, some injuries, some guys coming back. So we'll talk about NFC North when we come back. You're watching YCN Sports Talk.